You won't believe this, folks. BNP Paribas, one of France's biggest banks, has advised its clients to move money out of the eurozone and into Britain by putting their money into UK stocks, arguing that a cheap pound and an attractive combination of sectors and the better-than-expected performance of the British economy makes the country's businesses attractive investments. Thoughts and prayers for those who love to characterise Britain as an economic basket case, and those who stay attached to the fading idea that Brexit is a disaster. Now, I voted Remain, worried about the short to medium-term economic impacts of leaving the bloc. But I immediately accepted the result because democracy. And I'm delighted to have been proved wrong. The numbers speak for themselves. Since we left the EU, Britain has grown 8.7%, Germany 8.1%, and Italy 6.1%. Unemployment has come down to 4.2%, adding 1 million jobs. By July 2022, our exports to the EU were not just the highest since Brexit, but the highest ever. Investment into Britain up. Exports to the EU up. Exports to the rest of the world up, up, up. We avoid recession, Germany gets one. Even inflation is heading south. It goes on. Meanwhile, Britain rejoins the EU's Horizon project, which involves sharing resources, skills and knowledge in the field of science. We were only thrown out of Horizon as a result of pure spite from Brussels. But fearing that Europe could become a scientific backwater, surprise, surprise, they've welcomed us back in. Perish the thought that they needed Britain and our world-class scientific expertise. Meanwhile, the Windsor framework, which went some way to fixing the flow of goods to Northern Ireland, once again involved major concessions from, yes, you guessed it, the EU. Giorgia Meloni, the Prime Minister of Italy, has defended the Rwanda plan and has promised to collaborate with the UK to stop the flow of illegal immigration into our respective countries. You'll have to mop up the oceans of tears falling in Islington coffee shops and gastropubs when other EU nations begin to adopt Rwanda-style plans themselves. Whether it's the UK, France, Italy, Spain or anyone else, people across Europe have had enough of what they feel is an effective open borders policy, and Britain leads the way. Meanwhile, spare Europe's blushes as Brussels becomes the crack cocaine capital of Europe, as the EU 27 go to war with each other over a proposed €86 billion increase in their massive budget, a share of which we have escaped paying. Meanwhile, Germany, which has been bankrolling the bloc for decades, is in real economic trouble thanks to a disastrously conceived energy policy. So desperate are they to boost their economic growth, the Germans have actually cut corporation tax by €32 billion. Nice to see that Berlin have adopted a bit of good old-fashioned Trussonomics. Meanwhile, in a post-Brexit boom plan and a hoped £200 billion boost for UK output, the City of London has announced a package of major reforms, not possible under EU membership, that could put a rocket under the UK economy following our departure from the bloc. What about that? A City of London boost of $200 billion. This is before you even get to an expected and unprecedented trade deal with India, one of the fastest growing economies in the world and a market of 1 billion people. This off the back of the CPTPP deal, which makes us part of a market even bigger than the whole of the EU. And now you've got a French bank telling its customers to invest in Britain. Unfortunately, those Europhiles at last night of the proms waving their EU flags didn't get the memo, did they? Look, I believe in free speech. They can wave whatever flag they like, but they are in denial. The case for Brexit grows by the day. Even that well-reported figure that Britain was the slowest G7 country to recover from the pandemic proved to be a big fat lie, with the ONS correcting what they thought was a downturn of 0.2% to the truth, which is that we expanded by 1.5%, outpacing Germany, France, Italy and even Japan. How ironic that those waving EU flags at the proms this weekend are the same people who call patriotic Brexit supporters flag shaggers. Well, they're well and truly shagged now, aren't they? With their continued attachment to the EU project and their willful blindness, ignoring reality It makes them like those Japanese soldiers who were still fighting the Second World War in the 1960s. They didn't get the memo, and neither did the EU fanatics. We've replaced rule from Brussels with Rule Britannia, a far better tune to sing along to.